Hi everyone, the guy who spent way too much time watching D23 footage to get to the Percy Jackson trailer. And for my subscribers, I know a lot of you guys might be like, what the fuck is a Percy Jackson? Was that a movie at some point? Was that a random book I saw at a discount? No. Percy Jackson is the greatest novel series of all time, according to me when I was 12, and according to me now because I don't read as much. Anyway, this series is my childhood incarnate, and you are not going to sleep on it. You might not be excited for this series, but you're gonna be. The footage we're about to watch is not that exciting, but I'm going to pour over it now, and I want y'all to pay attention. But if you're a Percy Jackson fan who has stumbled upon this, then subscribe. I'm probably going to be covering the series, talking about Percy Jackson is always a good pastime of mine. And now that they're actually doing the series right, seemingly, for those who don't know, Percy Jackson, it was like Harry Potter to me. I read Harry Potter and then I was like, nah, get that British bullshit out of here. Get me my demigod kid from New York. That's who Percy Jackson was. He's the son of the Greek god Poseidon. 5 books. There was a sequel series with 5 books, and then there's like 20 spin-offs. It's a great universe. Go and read it when you got time. And they had a movie. Before Percy Jackson became what it was, Rick Riordan had already given the film rights away, and they did the series dirty, as you can imagine. This was at a time when, you know, after the Harry Potter boom and finally Harry Potter was calming down, they're like, okay, we can make other books movies and people are going to eat it up. Make Twilight, make Hunger Games, make Divergent. Percy Jackson was in there, and they didn't really do it right. The characters were not the accurate age. A lot of the things people love about the books were not in there. I'm not the kind of guy who needs it to be a one-for-one remake, but if you are going to adapt a series, it should at least feel like that series, in my opinion. And the movies were not that. And you could make the argument, well, they were good films on their own. No, they were not. And fast forward to the year 2000, what does that say, 24? Oh, God, 2024, Percy Jackson is going to come back in a television series on Disney+. And we're living in a time frame where a series of unfortunate events had a really kick-ass TV show, but we also live in a world where Artemis Fowl got a movie that was pretty dog shit. But when the movies came out, Rick Riordan was pretty silent, and as time went on, he just started to shit on it. But this movie, he is fully on board, and as we learned more information, we learned, oh, the kids are going to be the accurate ages. That's great. And as we can see from this trailer, let's go ahead and get into it. This opening monologue is the monologue from the book. You can see they're wearing the t-shirts that they wear in the book, orange and all, that hideous shade of orange. This right here, that image right there, also is stupidly accurate. That's actually the way I always pictured it, because in the book they describe them as like kind of just wearing camp gear, but they have random armor thrown in all over it. And look at some of those extras in the back. Some of these kids just look like kids. And that's something I really appreciate, because in the movie, it felt like I was watching supermodels in gymnastic classes. This feels a little bit more accurate to what I felt. And not only that, while we're talking about Percy and his monologue, his voice actually kind of gives me the vibe of Percy, at least at the beginning of the story. Because I think there's some people in the fandom who are like, this isn't my Percy Jackson, because now that Percy is like this grown-ass man, they think of him a little bit differently. But when the story started, he was a very boyish kid who had a lot to learn. And just from this kid's tone, it feels a little bit like that book I picked up when I was about Percy's age and I related to. And I know very well I might not like this show at all. Maybe I've aged out of this demographic. But if this show is what the books did for me to like my future children, then I will be more than satisfied. And you have to think, if this comes out in 2024 and let's say they do the 5 books, Let's say they do the sequel series, Heroes of Olympus. This might be going on till like 2030, which I'm more than excited about. And think of all the other Rick Riordan spin-off books, the Kane Chronicles, Magnus Chase. We might see them all if this show does good. Never in a million years would I say you should go and support a Disney property because they don't need any help at all. But for the love of God, if we can make one Disney property land correctly, I want it to be Percy Jackson. I want there to be Percy Jackson World, just like Harry Potter at Universal Studios. I want Percy Jackson in Kingdom Hearts. I want it all, man. Give it to me. And again, we kind of see Percy walking by the other cabins. And again, this was another thing in the movies that bothered me, because the movies, they're kind of just in these random fucking buildings. Chiron is just showing Percy his cabin, and he's like, ah, this is it. It's just a random building on the water. Here, we already see that the cabins have the actual characteristics of their god counterpart. I assume they're in that omega formation that they had in the movies. They're stuck right next to each other, which is, again, Percy just looks like a very boyish child, and he has the very royal cabin that he does not adapt to naturally at all. Hey, The Mandalorian Season 3. I'm probably the only one who's more excited for Percy Jackson than The Mandalorian. I'm not even making a Mandalorian video. But again, this was a teaser trailer, so there's not a whole lot that we can tell from this. I don't really want to know too much. I like talking about trailers, but I don't like looking up every spoiler on the internet. I want to go in with a fresh mind, and I advise everyone do the same. That being said, it exists. There was footage. I just saw real footage that my 12-year-old self would have lost his fucking mind if he had watched. Here I am as a 25-year-old adult, and it hit just as hard, man. Anyway, if you guys have any thoughts about this, leave them down in the comments below. If you're a Percy Jackson fan, obviously subscribe, because I'm going to be talking about the series at length in the future. If you're not a Percy Jackson fan, do yourself a favor and read a fucking book. And that's about all I got today. Thank you, and until next time, with that, I leave you.